Hello. This is Mary. Mary is an extremely shy child. She'll be found happily chatting to Wellington and Orinoco, but rarely found with other children. This lack of human interaction really made it difficult for Mary to make friends. And so as a teenager, she pretended friends weren't important. She hid behind this academic persona and left school with more qualifications than friends. This lack of human awareness and this lack of relationship skills meant that in her 20s, Mary married the first man who proposed to her. And unfortunately, he turned out to be violent. And no, Sarah, I didn't report it. Fortunately, at this time, Mary found great success and friendships on the tennis court. And so she hid behind this sporty persona, both on and off the court. Emerging from 9 years' worth of divorce proceedings, Mary just wanted nothing better in her 30s than to blend into the background. She hid behind these baggy clothes and tried very hard not to be noticed. And then, in my 40s, I decided I wanted something different. And there I emerged, the real me for the first time. Quite clearly, shyness has had a big impact on my life, but interestingly, it's also had a significant impact on my career. If asked, 45% of you are likely to admit to some degree of shyness. The Royal College of Psychiatrists tells us that the thing that shy people have in common is we hold ourselves to exceptionally high standards, high personal standards, especially in public. They surmise that shyness is just a fear. It's a fear, effectively, of making mistakes. And I would tell you from my story, my fear is about the embarrassment that accompanies those mistakes. And that brings me to bubble wrap, the universally acknowledged protection against breakage. What do we wrap our valuable objects in when we move house? We wrap them in bubble wrap. And so shy people wrap themselves in bubble wrap, or just wrap themselves to protect themselves from all those potential public humiliations that are just lurking around every corner, waiting to trip us up. There's a problem, though, with bubble wrap. When you wrap yourself, you restrict what you can do. When you wrap yourself, nobody can see who you really are. And I'd like to illustrate that point. Firstly, it restricts what you can do. I was 17 before I went to any school social event for the fear of taunting from those strangers that I went to school with. And I missed out on valuable social skills learning. I was in my late 20s before I admitted to any career ambition in the workplace at all for fear of ridicule. And I missed out on any help that anybody could have given me until that point. And in my mid-30s, I was applying for an MBA, and the interviewer casually announced that all of the feedback from all of my references was marvellously consistent. And then I realised I had no clue what that was, because I'd never asked for feedback for fear of negative criticism, and I'd missed out on vital self-awareness. And secondly, when you're wrapped, nobody can see who you really are. In my late 30s, early in my Shell career, I was sitting in a virtual meeting and was deciding whether to take an IT system live. We'd taken the system live a year before, and it had been a raging failure. Inconsistencies in the IT had lost Shell a lot of money. And so the EVP sponsor had said, please do thorough testing. Don't let us go through that again. We can't afford that. And so imagine my horror when I heard the project team say, we've reduced testing because we relied on previous results. We've relied on results from other countries. And I needed to be the one to intervene. I needed to be the one saying the EV sponsor words. So terrified, not wanting really to show myself up in that light, I wrapped my bubble wrap very tightly around me, and it all came out kind of blurty. We can't go live, we haven't done thorough testing, no. My intervention that day was seen as disrespectful. It was seen as arrogant, and it was seen as selfish. I was clearly none of those things. I was just a shy person trying to do the right thing. But what my colleagues saw was my bubble wrap. They didn't see the real me underneath that. So there I am, late 30s. I am misunderstood. I am not getting the help that I need, and my career ambitions are not being fulfilled. And apparently I'm not alone. Research from the University of Oklahoma tells us that shy people end their careers with less prestigious job titles than the rest of the population. Dr. Jonathan Cheek, in his book Conquering Shyness, tells us that shy people suffer from underemployment. He says that that is being stuck in a job that requires less skill and talent than we possess. So when I was 40, I decided I didn't want that. And since that time, I have been promoted to letter category. I have had my potential reassessed, thankfully upwards, Hans. And I have been offered and accepted high-profile, if somewhat scary, work assignments that enhance my career. Whether you're shy or not, we all protect ourselves from something. By unwrapping your bubble wrap, collaborating openly with your colleagues, you can boost your performance, and together we can improve Shell's results. So who would like to boost their career this afternoon? Couple at the back at least. Like any self-respecting MBA, I've reduced my advice to a 3-letter acronym, SHY, or SHY, as I like to call it. See yourself, help yourself, become successfully shy. So, step 1, see yourself as others see you. Clearly from my earlier story, there was a vast difference between how I felt and how others perceived me. To be an authentic leader, to be successful, you need to close that gap. You need to know how others see you, and you need to feel that way too. And so I was very fortunate in Shell. Risa, an excellent line manager, helped me understand that the more nervous and shy I felt, the more arrogant and unapproachable I came across. My bubble wrap was really working for me. It was really keeping people away. And I knew I needed to do something about that, and I chose to get an external coach. And I was lucky again. I had an ex-colleague, Jane, and Jane I trusted, I respected, and I was certain she wanted the best for me. And most importantly, Jane had retired to Argentina. Now, Argentina is far enough away for even my embarrassment levels not to afford the airfares. Without Jane's help, I would not be here today. Having that mirror is a vital step on my journey to being successfully shy. So I'd ask you today, who is your mirror? Who will you use? Step 2, asking for help, the shy person's worst nightmare. You have to admit your vulnerabilities. You have to put yourself at somebody else's mercy. Or does it have to be that way? With Jane's help and the book Never Lunch Alone by Keith Ferrazzi, I came to understand that I adore being asked for help. It allows me to show off my skills, my knowledge, my experience in a way I would never have offered as a shy person if I hadn't been asked. And so apparently do all of you adore being asked for help. And so if I ask for help, if I ask you for help, I'm not shining the spotlight on my weakness. I'm shining the spotlight on your strength. The first time I put this into practice, I fixed a broken relationship. And together, the two of us solved a long outstanding issue in one meeting. My speed of delivery, my personal effectiveness, and my relationships have all improved since I started asking for help. And lastly, it is all about you. If you want to be successful, you have to be recognised and remembered. If you're going to be recognised and remembered, the first thing you have to do is be noticed. And if you're going to be noticed, people are going to notice the whole you, including your mistakes. When I got that promotion, there was feedback from the senior leadership team who ratified that promotion. And the feedback was the half of the people who knew me, well, they thought I was great. And well, the other half, well, they just didn't know me, which is really interesting for a promotion at that level of seniority. And the feedback I got was I really needed to increase my profile. At the same time, Shell was encouraging all of us to become authentic leaders. And I was celebrating my great promotion with season tickets to my beloved Arsenal Football Club. And so my own personal perfect storm erupted, and I turned up at the first match of the season with red, very red hair. And those days it was permanent colour, not the washout variety that I've learnt to use these days. I was not thinking about the consequences. I was happy, I was celebrating, I was potentially being me for the very first time in my life. But the results were astounding. Complete strangers come up to me in the street, they smile at me, they say hello. I come back to the workplace, everybody's including me, they're asking me questions, they're asking me for help, they're wanting me to be part of their team. Junior staff walk up to me in corridors and thank me for being different. They find it inspirational that they might too become a senior leader and retain their personal identity. A colleague of mine told me a story about his sister. His sister was interviewing in Shell for a job, and she wasn't liking the smell of the place, all the grey suits, stuffed shirts that were walking around. And then I walked through, and she said, yeah, maybe this is a place that I can work. Is she crazy? Is she suggesting that we all paint our hair red? No, I'm not doing that. I'm advocating that you allow yourself to be you and allow me to be me. And I want to assure you this is me. This isn't me pretending to be something else. On the day of this haircut, my husband and I decided to enter Dutch culture after 6 years of living here, and we went to buy bikes. And we bought brand new bikes, and as I was cycling this bike back across town to get home, I found out the Dutch have a sixth sense. They can smell out new bikes. They must be able to, because everybody was staring at me. I was clearly much more self-conscious about cycling than I ever was about the outrageous haircut. So what might your pink hair be? Might it be high heels? Might it be bright colours in the office? Might it be jewellery? If you're a man, might it be funny ties, stripy socks? We know somebody who does that. Whatever it is, do it and prepare to be noticed. And prepare for everything to be noticed, including your mistakes. And this is the hard part. This is the bit I really find difficult. You've got to be nice to yourself about it. You've got to accept your mistakes. About 6 weeks ago, I sent an email to one of our EC members. Just as I pressed send, I noticed I hadn't put a title on the email. Idiot. 17 years, 2 months and 9 days ago, I made a basic arithmetic error that meant 3,000 staff tax declarations got submitted to the authorities incorrectly. I actually still get embarrassed thinking about it. Alexander Pope tells us to err is human and to forgive is divine. If I'm on the tennis court, I know that making mistakes is a natural part of playing the game. If other people make mistakes, I know it's a natural process in their own learning and development. And so now I need to apply those rules to myself in the workplace. How important was the mistake I just made? Did anybody even notice or care? Was it a title on an email or, God forbid, was it 3,000 tax returns? Have I fixed the problem and have I learnt from it? And I don't mean have I learnt how to avoid the embarrassment. That leads me straight back here to bubble wrap. But will I avoid the situation in the future? And believe me, I do ask people to check important arithmetic these days. If I have learnt from it, I did not make a mistake today. I took one step further in my journey to becoming successfully shy. I stand here before you today, loosely wrapped in bubble wrap. There's one more potential humiliation falling off the stage as I try to make it back to the chair that's before me. But I want to leave you with two cautionary tales. I'm shy. I'm not an introvert. I have spent my whole life as this extrovert, tightly wrapped in bubble wrap, and I've just unwrapped the bubble wrap. And secondly, with red hair, I didn't stop being shy. I still hate answering the telephone. I will drink tea in a restaurant despite my intolerance with caffeine rather than ask the waitress if she has any chamomile. But in the workplace, I have decided to act differently. And every step I take, I boost my own self-confidence, I reduce my reliance on bubble wrap, and I enable myself to be successfully shy. Do you dare to join me? Thank you.